sisters, my name is Mo and welcome to my channel. I am a traditional woman in a modern world and in a modern society. On my channel, I'll be posting videos on how to be a traditional woman, femininity, tips and tricks, advice, as well as how to really be the woman of God that God has created all of us to be, to step into your virtuous femininity, to be that woman that we all know is inside of us. Mostly on every single week, I do post a video, either it be a tutorial or it be a channel video where it's an episode, depending on the topics that I have chosen and the topics that I see that many us women struggle with. So today's topic is about the lies that I have believed and I have heard about traditional womanhood and relationships. If this is a topic that you are interested in, as well as to get to know me and other things that I'm interested in and other videos that I have spoken about or in, please do subscribe to my channel to get notified of new content and join our community. Find me on social media. I'm on Instagram and I am on Facebook, and I will be dropping my handles down below in the description box, as well as you might see my handle, floating around on the screen. So let's get to the topic at hand. The lies that we have been told or that I have believed about being a traditional woman and relationships. So as I mentioned, that with time, the role of women has definitely changed in the world that we live in. I mean, this calendar year, it is 2022. And to hear somebody talking about traditional womanhood is not as popular as hearing somebody talk about being a high value woman in the sense of being a CEO or a boss babe or Miss Independent or getting the bag or, these sometimes unrealistic expectations that are placed upon us as women. As we unpack this topic, I'd like to definitely add a disclaimer that I am not judging anyone, or is this video meant to judge anyone that is more inclined to be a career woman, a modern woman, a boss babe, Miss Independent, whatever it is that you are striving to be that is not a traditional woman. This video is not to, judge you or put you down. It's just a video to encourage women that are not so inclined to be a career woman or that want to look at being more traditional in their livelihoods, in their lives, in the relationships that we have, and in the woman that they want to be, that we want to be. Definitely, we need to realize that we are not alone. There is a place for traditional women in the society. We are much needed. As much as a career woman is needed, as much as, we do need women in certain industries, it is not to say that because you're a traditional woman or that you are not career orientated, that your role is insignificant or less than. So the first lie that I would like to unpack is that femininity is weakness. So, a lot of the times, especially in movies and even at school and interacting with different women and how teenagers are brought up today and how I was brought up, is that when we display femininity as women, it is seen sometimes as being weak or being too soft. And as opposed to when women embody more masculine energy and, success in more masculine jobs and roles, it is seen as being better than if you were more feminine. And that is so not true. We have terms like boss babe and boss up that are, now synonymous with being a woman. If you're not that type of woman, somehow it means that we're weak. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be a negative thing. I mean, if you are that type of woman, it is not a bad thing. But it is also not like you're better than anyone else. And also, it's not that we are weaker or better than you. Or, our roles may differ, but as women, there are certain standards that we must maintain, especially when it comes to displaying masculine energy as success for women or masculine roles as success for a woman, because we are created different to men. We're not supposed to be competing with men. we're not supposed to do what men can't do. I mean, we're not supposed to do what men can do, is what I was trying to say. Is we're supposed to do what men can't do. Men cannot always, raise a healthy family. They cannot definitely have children, like birth them. So, when we focus more on certain roles that are inclined to male dominance, we lose the essence of what we are and what we were created to be as women. At times, I have found that being naturally feminine is way easier and less energy consuming than trying to be more masculine or display my strength in a masculine way. Femininity should bring people together. I mean, we should be able to display compassion and humanity within our femininity and not be competing with men, and especially not be competing with each other. As women, we have to create sisterhoods that are healthy. We should be able to nurture relationships and to birth healthy children, to love husbands and be loved by husbands. These are the things that are important to some of us women, and there's nothing wrong with that. Feminine energy or feminine leadership is mostly based around compassion, humanity, inspiration, edification, and creation. I mean, as women, there are so many roles that we play. They are more diverse than just working, and they are more diverse than just staying at home. I mean, that's not all traditional women do, traditional wives or traditional mothers. There are more ways to be a working woman than literally working outside of the house. And throughout society, that's what has been promoted. There was a time where being a housewife was more acceptable. But nowadays, when we, especially me, like I've experienced that when I express that I want to be a housewife, it's like, isn't there something else that you want to do? I am a single woman. I'm not married, in that sense that we are single until you are married. And I'm not married, so it's like, you want to be a housewife, but you're not married. Okay, I have a problem because I'm not married. But that doesn't mean that I cannot have a life that focuses around that. And my life doesn't essentially focus on getting married. My life is focused on living a traditional life, a biblical life, a life that honors God. And this is the way that I've chosen to express it, and to also build a community and be part of a community that doesn't pressure women to have this mentality that you have to have a career, you have to have your own car, your own house, your own things, you have to be, money orientated, we have to have lavish lives. I mean, this is not realistic for the everyday ordinary woman. Masculine leadership is very different to feminine leadership. I mean, masculine leadership is action orientated. I mean, men are providers, they're protectors, they're the head of the family, they're the head of our communities, they're the chiefs, they're the captains, they're the people that are supposed to be the authority over us. So the next lie that I believed is that in order for a woman to be successful, or she will not achieve her full potential unless we are working full-time outside the house and career orientated. So this is a mindset and ideology that is definitely being pursued and pushed in our society. Even in our schools, I mean, there's a subtle way that it's being pushed that, to be a woman, you need to have a degree, you need to have a full-time job, and you need to have a family, a husband, and look beautiful while doing all of these things. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being career orientated, like I will continue to say. However, when we put a woman's potential based on her career, we lose the essence of what women are placed here to be. We are helpmeets. So if we are focused on our career and focused on our potential in the working industry, where are we helping in other areas? There are other areas that are going to lack. The problem with this mindset and trend is that, like I've said previously, is that it places a lot of unrealistic pressure on women that are not necessarily going to be the high achievers or the CEOs or the boss babes, you know, the regular everyday woman sometimes does not have the same opportunities that somebody else would have had, or the same strength in that area. We have strength and weaknesses in different areas. So to closet, or to put women in a box that we all need to be high achievers, CEOs, boss babes, is truly unfair, because we're not supporting all women, because all women are not like this. We're not all wanting to be the multi-million-dollar, model or woman that can, run a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, we can all probably do it, but not all of us want to do it. Not all of us have the time to do it. I mean, if we're all doing that, where are our families going to come from? How are our children going to be taught about certain traditional morals and values and beliefs that are definitely being lost right now in the society that we do live in? Many believe that a woman that does not pursue a career or a high level position is unintelligent, or she has no ambition, which is definitely not true. Women that do not have these type of lifestyles, we are very much fulfilled in the things that we do. There are different ways to live. There are women that are happy being a housewife, being a house mother, being more traditional and not having, that fast-paced modern lifestyle. Many women have chosen to focus on their family, as well as, gaining skills that will help with future families, future husbands and current husband. I mean, and also as the children that we have and the children that we'd love to have, to prepare ourselves for this life is very honorable. Just as it is a good thing to, as a woman, to get educated and have a career of some sort. I mean, the Bible does say that he who does not work does not eat. So as a single woman, I do expect myself to work in a sense, because I have to eat. There's things I need. But when I do get married, and Lord willing, I do get married, I would expect my husband to take care of like the things that would necessarily be the primary survival things that I would need, and that we would need as a couple, as a family, as the unit that God has presented us to be together in. As a single woman, I obviously don't have a husband to provide for me, so I am a dependent. I would like to just say it right now. I'm a dependent. I am not Miss Independent, because that's just not how my life is. We're not all like that, and that's just how the Lord has made my life. And sometimes it sucks, because it's like we always want our own things. The older that we get, I'm approaching 30, and there is certain things in my life that I wish I had, but there's also a blessing in having things that are not the way that you expect them to be. So like I said, I am single. So as a single woman, I focus on gaining skills that will help me in a traditional life, that will lead me in decisions that will help me get there. So, gaining, cooking skills, cleaning, homemaking, even for myself. I mean, just being able to dress in a modest way is a skill. I'm looking to live off grid, so I've purchased some land, and just getting back to being less modern. Even though we live in a modern world, and there's obviously things that I do love from the modern society and technology and things like that, that I will continue to do and be a part of. But I just want to express that just because someone is more traditional, it doesn't mean that they do not have ambition. The next lie that I believed, and I think sometimes we can actually fall into this lie a lot as women, is that women can have it all. That we can have the career, the degree, the husband, the life, the house, the car, the kids, and still look amazing, be healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. All of that is a lot of pressure. To be very honest, like, let's be real, to be a boss babe and have a family, like a functioning family that you're actively a part of, can be very stressful. I'm not saying that it is not possible to live a fulfilled life, being career and work orientated, as well as having a family life. It's definitely possible. However, we need to really think of how our bodies function, how we were created. We are going to burn out eventually in any area that you place most of your energy in. Same as when we are in our traditional role as housewives, mothers, and in families, we need to take a break. We need to step back and be able to analyze how we are. So if we're not leaving space or room for, those kind of things, we're always on this go, go, go mentality. We don't allow ourselves to really embody what God has presented in our lives. There are many people and many women that do have like a constant high energy. So it's not a problem to always be on go, go, go mode. However, the longevity of it can be weary. Like it can drain on your body physically, mentally, and spiritually, as well as the glorification of this like superwoman that women don't need help really is unattainable and unrealistic, that we can do everything and we can be everything. We cannot be everything. There are things that us women need help with. There are things that men are naturally better at and can be able to handle the stresses differently. To be more traditional isn't to say that we cannot handle stress, but we understand what certain stress does to our bodies, does to our mentality, our health, and everything else that we believe in. So we choose to not embrace that part. We choose to embrace the more feminine parts, the parts that don't have us exerting too much high energy for long periods of time. Many women suffer in silence, and by silence I mean by comparing ourselves to other women, by comparing ourselves to other situations and lifestyles, and especially people that are more high achieving than we are. We are not having like open discussions about like the struggles and the hardships it has taken to really get to certain positions and certain lifestyles. I mean, it's not everybody that can keep up with things like that. And what we're being shown is that, everybody's put together. In some instances, we do see the hard work that people do. And it's not that everybody isn't hardworking. We are hardworking in different ways. When we look at others, especially if it's a brand or an organization, showing us this perfect woman ideology, the high achieving, luxurious lifestyle, the perfect motherhood and lavish womanhood, while maintaining this like masculine energy of being a multi-million-dollar, businesswoman, living this lifestyle that, as I have said, the everyday woman sometimes cannot relate to. I mean, it doesn't show the different backgrounds. It doesn't show that we don't all have the same opportunities to lead us to those lifestyles. And it definitely doesn't show that there are more things that are more valuable and important in life than material success. Our next lie is that traditional womanhood and submission is a form of slavery. Now, I've heard this throughout the years, and it is totally untrue. It is not slavery. Definitely it is not slavery. I mean, if we even look up what the biblical understanding of to minister is to serve others. So it cannot be slavery to assume our natural position of being a helpmeet and being submissive to the role that God has given us. It is a fact that God created mankind first of all, and then created woman from, man. And that God has given men certain abilities that women do not have, and God has given women certain abilities that men do not have. Living our lives to serve others is never beneath you. It is never a negative thing to be, family orientated, to focus on building your husband's lives, your children's lives. I mean, if you do have children, or to build your life in a way that when it does happen, that you are available to be able to be there in the household, physically, spiritually, mentally, and everything that embodies being a traditional woman. Submission is not oppression. I I will go more into this on another episode. I think we really need to go into what submission is and how to be submissive. But submission essentially is knowing our place as women. And some people might be offended by, I don't got no place. Yeah, we do have a place as women. We have a role that specifically is ours. So we need to understand that we shouldn't have authority over men in the sense that we are better than them in certain roles. I mean, in terms of financially, sometimes, yeah, women do make more money than men. But we also need to understand that if that is the case, the man still needs to assume his position as head of the household. We need to be able to take the guidance of men, and not just men as physical men, but as our Father in heaven directs us as women to be submissive to Christ as our head. So if Christ is telling us that as women we need to be submissive, and if you have faith in that, and you have faith that God rewards those who diligently seek Him, as a woman, we need to understand that being submissive, having that type of mindset, is vitally important to succeeding as a woman. This is definitely how we change generational curses, generational cycles, especially as women, in terms of being single. Having that dominant mindset hasn't always worked out for me. And I don't think it has really worked out for the women in my family, as well as the women that I've seen, the women that sometimes we aspire to be. We find that in personal areas, especially in relationships, it's hard to have a successful relationship when you're this dominating woman, when you don't submit and you don't know how to submit. So this is a way that we're able to change those patterns so that we can be able to gain things that we were not raised in having in our everyday life. In having a family with two parents, with two happy parents that are married to one another, having strong women that are built from having a father in their life, having a strong woman that was able to embody femininity in the house without being stressed about, everyday survival. And the last lie that I would like to touch on about being a traditional woman is that being a traditional woman, a traditional wife, a housemaker, or a house mother is not a real job or aspiration. This is totally untrue. It is real. It's not like we're just making this up. There are people out there living real lives. There are women out there living really successful, family-orientated lives. And, something that we need to realize is that if we take ourselves seriously, we need to execute and wake up and present ourselves in a way that is serious. Like, wake up on time, have a proper schedule, have a routine, have a to-do list of the things that you'd like to achieve. I mean, I'm talking to myself here as well. I don't always do it, but I try to do it. I try to stay as consistent as possible, because that is where our success will come from, is the consistency, is taking, our role as traditional women seriously, and that it is a profession. I mean, it is a professional skill to be able to be a homemaker. If you look up housewife, I'm telling you, it is an occupation. Let me say that. Okay. Like I did say, it is a skill, to, whether you're married or not married, to maintain a traditional life, traditional values. It is a skill which needs to be practiced every single day. Every single day, you don't always wake up and want to be traditional, or you don't always wake up and want to go to work, but we do. So whichever perspective that you choose, be professional in it, take pride in it, in the sense that you want to excel and have that type of spirit that shows that you are content, happy, that you are joyful, that you want to be in the place that you are. Take initiative and be proactive in your own life, at home, in your family's life, in your community's life. Whatever it is that you can find yourself to do do it with an excellent spirit. The Bible even tells us to do this, that when we find ourselves doing things that we are passionate about, that we are truly authentic about, and that we find ourselves doing, we need to do it with all goodness, with every might in our body. So it's also not to say that you should only be doing this and that's all that your purpose is. I mean, we can outsource help. It's also a good thing to get help. As a traditional woman, we do realize that sisterhood, being able to get help outside of the family, does help us as well. So it is needed for certain women to work and to have certain careers. So even hiring a nanny is not a bad thing. Having a midwife, a doula, things that will help relieve the pressures of everyday life on us as women. Because that is essentially what we want to be. Well, what I would like to be as a woman is to be able to fully embody my potential as a woman without adding unnecessary stress to my life. A lot of the time, actually, the problem is time. Like, there is not enough time to do a lot of things. So there's no problem in definitely hiring people or taking breaks and realizing that as women, when we hear the term weaker vessel, it's not to say that you're dumber or anything like that, or that our role as traditional women is less significant. We are weaker in certain areas, and I'm okay with being weaker because I would like to take naps during the day when I've been cleaning the house the whole day. And I can imagine if and when I have children, I mean, it's not an easy task to look after children all day long. It's not an easy task to maintain a house all day long, even if you don't have children, to make sure that your husband is eating healthy, that your family is eating healthy, that everybody's on schedule, that bills are being paid on time and things like that. Yes, men provide the finances, but us women also help to, organize what is happening in the household, to be an assistant, to be a helpmeet. So those are some of the lies that I believed about being a traditional woman. And next, I will be going into the lies about traditional relationships, the lies about relationships in modern dating, and the lies about sex. Like, for real, we've been lied to. They lied to us. So stay tuned to hear what I have to say. Okay, so as I mentioned, today I'm going through the lies that I have believed about traditional womanhood and relationships. So now we're on to relationships. These are some of the lies that I believed, and also going into some of the roles of what women should be, trying to embody within relationships. And not to say there's necessarily a right or wrong way, but if we are trying to be more godly and have a more godly centered relationship, there are certain ways we need to be that are contrary to how this world suggests that women should be. So I just like to go over the role of a woman in a relationship. The roles of women in relationships. Just briefly, I will go more into depth on this in another episode. But just to introduce the topic, that as a woman, you should be trying to, attract a better quality man. And in order to do that, we need to have better qualities ourselves. So the first thing is we need to have high moral standards. So be Christ-minded first. Christ first, man, woman, child. That is the order of how we were created. Adopting a submissive mindset is the first start to being able to understand the role of a woman in a relationship and in our community and society. So we need to adopt a submissive mindset and being able to adapt our will and fit the program that God has presented to us, or even the man that God has presented to you. If you are already married, that would be the husband that you are married to, that whatever program that your husband is on or trying to achieve, we need to be able to fit into that program and not expect him to fit into our program. In our communities, especially the Black community, I feel like it doesn't matter whether you're from Africa or America, and even in Europe, we have so many similar experiences as Black women, as Black people, that The two-parent household, and it's not just only Black people, but I'm only speaking from my perspective of being raised in a household of a single mother, and having seen, my aunts also raise their children as single mothers, is that we don't always have the best, experiences to be able to know what to do at all times. We may not have witnessed, what true feminine energy is in a two-parent household. So at times we don't even know what it is to be a feminine woman, in that sense. We know how to be these strong women that don't get hurt by anything. And that's not true. We do get hurt. We do cry. We do want to be soft and feminine. So going into the lies about dating and relationships, there's a lot of things that I've had to unlearn, a lot of behaviors that I have to unlearn, and bad habits, temptations definitely, that I have had to stay away from in order to get more into a traditional mindset, traditional values and belief system. So everything that I'm about to really explain or really talk about in terms of being a lie about dating or relationship is based on my personal experience, is based on the experiences of others that I've been able to observe or be a part of. And in no sense, as I've said before earlier in this video, am I judging anyone? Am I disgracing anyone? I'm just reflecting and also discussing on the things that I have perceived in my life that have not worked, or things that I feel like I've been deceived about because of the results that I did or did not get in my life. So lie number one about relationships in dating that I discovered is that we have to have sex in order to maintain a relationship. That is totally a lie. That is, I think that's one of the biggest lies that I believe since I was like 13, that we have to have sex. And I will go through more into why this is a lie. We have to really think of what kind of relationships we're talking about, especially when it comes to sex. If you are not married, if we are not married, I am not married, so I am single. And to assume that just because I'm in a relationship and I have to have sex, that is a complete lie, because certain relationships are not entitled to certain intimacy. You don't go around being intimate with everybody, and that should not be the case. Not all relationships should have the same benefits that a marriage relationship has, because it's an entirely different type of commitment. Yes, it can be difficult to have a relationship without sex, but it is not impossible. And that is a relationship before marriage. Since I am single, I am definitely talking from a single's perspective that it is not impossible to have a relationship that has no sex. It is very much possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. Lie number two is that nobody is waiting to have sex. This is a complete lie. I'm somebody that's waiting, I may not have started this way, but that doesn't mean you can't change your life. And that in itself is also a lie, that, there's nobody out there. There are people out there. There are many women, there are many men as well that have decided to lead a life that is not sexually orientated or promoting sexual activity. It is a lie that there are people out there that are virgins and it's a taboo. It shouldn't be a taboo, because it should be such a great thing that somebody is able to restrain themselves, that they're able to even have that much virtue within their lives to be able to keep themselves until they get married. Lie number three is that we cannot wait until marriage, that you have to have sex now. You don't have to have sex now. You can be a virgin, and there's totally nothing wrong with being a virgin. As well as this lie ties into the fact that if you are not a virgin, that you can decide to abstain from sex. We can decide to stop having sex. That is true. You can decide to stop having sex. So it is a lie that you cannot stop having sex. We can totally change our mindset and our lives in the believing that the thought that having sex before marriage and toxic attachment to sex as being love or displayment of love before marriage is a requirement. It's not a requirement to have sex before marriage. And those are some of the things that I believe that. Like, I really did believe that. And yeah, I don't really like to go into my past because I just really feel like I've changed, I've forgotten. Not really I've forgotten, but I feel like if I believe that God has forgiven me, we need to really step forward in the life that we want to achieve. So I don't really go much into my past, but if we are trying to live lives that are going to make a difference and an impact, we need to embody that full-heartedly and wholeheartedly, that we are going to be different. Our next lie is that waiting to have sex is boring. I mean, yeah, it can be boring if like you're thinking of this lifestyle that is very much self-gratification now, get your pleasure when you want it, how you want it, you can have your cake and eat it type of life. If that's your mindset, then it might be boring for you. Many a times we get our ideals of relationships and love from social media, movies, television, all these romance dramas that really fantasize and romanticize, your first kiss and the first time you have sex, and that from that first moment you will live happily ever after. And that is not always true. We can't always romanticize those type of experiences because reality doesn't always happen like that. And so we do need to be realistic in that sense, that we cannot just sleep with somebody and it's going to be happily ever after. I mean, we do need to realize that sex does cloud our judgment. It does make a relationship seem better than it actually really is, because it fills up your space of actually having to connect with someone's mind, with being, infatuated with their physicalness, infatuated with their sexuality, instead of being truly in love with how somebody really is. We are, rarely ever taught about how we need to be patient in relationships, how we need to have long suffering, and how we're going to struggle. A lot of the times, and in relationships, I have seen in my personal life that we tend to run away when things get difficult and hard, or we tend to use sex and pleasure when things get difficult and hard, instead of really facing what is going on, instead of really discussing the important issues and addressing things in a manner that we can all move forward from. We all need to and want to know that somebody's going to truly be there for us when things are not going as perfectly as they used to be. And our last lie about relationships that I have learned is that we need to be test driven before a marriage. I mean, first of all, we are not cars. So why do we need to be test driven before we get married? Why do you need to know what I taste like, look like, and feel like before you marry me? I'm sure you guys have heard this term before. Why buy the cow when the milk is for free? And that is true. Why would somebody want to marry you? Or, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Don't get me wrong. It does happen where people have had sex before marriage and they get married. I just kind of have this feeling and view that why would you want to give somebody such an intimate part of yourself and they have not been able to even commit their life to you? Sex between a man and a woman is created to, make us one body. The Bible does say, we become one flesh. So when we have sex with different random people, we're becoming one body with like everybody. That's not the way we were created to be. I mean, it is a sacred act. It is an act between a man and a woman that essentially can procreate. We can build families from it. So it's not something that I have learned that I want to loosely be attached to everybody in that sense. I hope this episode has been, kind of eye-opening, and as well as something that we can all consider especially with the lies that I have believed and I've expressed. And I'm pretty sure there are more lies, and I will do maybe an update of this video as time goes by. So thank you so much for, always appreciating the advice that I give. I appreciate when people really do reach out to me. So hit me up in the comment section. Let me know, what other lies have you believed, or are there things that you would like us to discuss? As well as find me on social media. I am on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok.